Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 112 of 2015. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neil. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by FanDuel Sports, a proud partner with the NFL. If you'd like to support the Odds Breakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, become a member, pick any. For winning cappers to get the premium plays before the line moves, you can also support us on patreon.com. If nothing else, please visit the Odds Breakers to become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. NFL Week 18 is here, my friends, and I decided we need to get a podcast out today because the truth is, on Wednesday to Friday and Saturday, these lines are going to be different. And giving out stuff on Friday for the NFL, when you could have possibly predicted it much better, is a little bit ridiculous. As a matter of fact, this is one of the easiest weeks to handicap when it comes to the NFL because I don't have to break into EPA. I don't have to break into pressure rate. I guess somewhat injuries, but not nearly as bad because Week 18 is not even really about power raise. It's more about motivation. It's about making seeds. It's about next year. There's a lot of fallacies when it comes to it, and I've learned that over the years. I'll tell you this: I'm a lot different than I was 7 years ago. Some of this stuff I actually used to think that motivation was more towards the team trying to make something in all cases. But knowing from what I learned, this week is a very opportunistic week to make money because I honestly believe that there is some incorrect lines out there, and a lot of lines just try to go right in the middle if a quarterback's playing or not. But the truth is that you should know more often than not if they are really going to play. And the truth is if a quarterback's announced out, I can pretty much almost guarantee you the books are not factoring in that most of the team is also going out. So wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and how all this information applies to these games. And we'll see where I'm right. We'll see where I'm wrong. Obviously, things can happen. I'm going to be wrong about some stuff. I'm hoping to be right about 66-70% of my takes here on this show, which hopefully is enough to have a profitable week. So first and foremost, last week of NFL ATS, Rams 11-5, Seattle 11-5, Jacksonville 11-5. Those are your best covering teams. You got New England, San Francisco 10-5-1, both, and then Chicago and Philadelphia 10-6. As you know, the Bears just could not cover quite against San Francisco at the end of that game, as they had a chance to win and lost by 4 points. The worst covering teams in the NFL, 5-11 Tampa Bay Bucks. Wow, they have been a train wreck lately. Arizona, Washington, and Baltimore, 6-10. Las Vegas, Green Bay, 6-10. Bad covering teams. The Chiefs and the Denver Broncos, 6-9-1. And then Chiefs actually big cover last week as a huge dog. Then you have a bunch of 7-9s. And there's just a lot of middleness in the NFL when it comes to this. The totals also have been very tough. Biggest over team, Dallas, remains at 11-4-1. And books can't even catch up to that. But then San Francisco, 10-5-1. And then you have a bunch of 10-6s is Detroit, Tennessee, New England, the Giants, the Jets, and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Jets are an overs team just because their defense is literally that bad. I mean, literally that bad. Unders teams, Chiefs 4-12. Books can't catch up to them. The Saints 5-11. The Houston Texans 5-10-1, who has the best defense in the land. The Eagles 6-10. The Chargers 6-9-1. So those are your unders teams for 2025 going into 2026. All right, before we get into these games, I want to remind everyone, Splash Sports, partnered with the Odds Breakers, is putting on a NFL Playoff Survivor contest with revivals. So if everyone goes any week, like Conference Championship week, and there's going to be a revival, so we have less winners and less splits. There's already 234 people at $20 a pop in this contest. Go to our website, theoddsbreakers.com, to sign up. Hopefully we can get as many people as possible. Right now we are the trending as the most used contest for a $20 buy-in out of anybody on Splash Sports. So I'm real happy about that. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great way to enjoy some of these games and pick some of these winners. I'm enjoying the season and Splash Sports as we go through the years of putting on this show. But make sure you guys get into that if you have a chance. And if you need info on it, feel free to email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Now it's time for a little NFL Week 18. And like I said, not a ton about power ratings, because if this was really about power ratings, would the Packers be massive dogs to the Vikings? I think not. Would the Eagles only be 7-point favorites to the Commanders? Probably not. Would the Rams only be 7.5 against the Cardinals? Probably not. And we'll get to that game. There's all kinds of reasons why the Broncos are minus 12.5 against the Chargers. Let's start with the first Saturday games where you actually do have motivation on both sides. These two games are a little bit more about power ratings, and it's a little bit more about pedigree as well. The Carolina Panthers against Tampa Bay Bucks. This is an interesting line. It's 2.5 on DraftKings and FanDuel. Our friends at FanDuel have a little bit better number for you if you like Carolina. Total of this game is 44.5. Actually, it's +3 minus 120 at FanDuel. So we're going to go by our FanDuel numbers, being that those are our sponsors and our friends. And today we have to break this down. And I took the Panthers at a little bit better of a juiced number 3. I still like it at 3 minus 120. Look, Tampa Bay, like I said, from an ATS perspective, has been a shell of themselves. Baker Mayfield has started out well, but I think a lot of that was schedule. A lot of it was more health on his offensive line. And a lot of it was, different receivers. It's funny, you got Godwin back at mid-season. He's kind of been a little bit more to distraction, I almost think. Egbuka's not playing well, and he was playing great when it was just him and Evans. But then Evans misses like 6 weeks or so. He comes back in the fold. On paper, you can say probably Tampa Bay's maybe a little bit better of a team, and maybe that's how you get to 3. But to be honest with you, Carolina has covered 3 of the last 5 matchups, and they won this year. It was in Carolina, but they won. Carolina's kind of got that don't believe in us motivation. Another thing about Carolina is that they've been a very weird team to handicap. Wins against the Rams, wins against the Bills. They won at the Packers. They won at Atlanta. This has just been a crazy Carolina Panthers team that seems to kind of lose against the lower teams in a way, but steps up when it's important, and there's nothing more important in this game from a season perspective as trying to make the playoffs. 3 points is too much. I like the Panthers plus 3 points for 2 stars. Next game, we have the Seattle Seahawks against San Francisco 49ers. Back and forth. Niners are now plus 1.5 at plus 100 on the money line. Total 49.5. These are the high total because of the fact that this San Francisco 49ers defense has not been it. As a matter of fact, I personally have this number a bit higher, considering an overbet myself. But the truth is, I like the side a little bit more. The Niners know their defense didn't show up last week against the Bears, and I think the Niners might show up a little bit more against Sam Darnold. But the thing about this handicap is the coaches. I'm going to give Mike McDaniel a ton of credit. He's been awesome. He's been underrated. He hasn't been talked about enough. But this is still Kyle Shanahan here at home. And this is still a more seasoned 49ers team with a better clutch quarterback in Brock Purdy. A play against Sam Darnold is taking the Niners, and that's what I'm doing. I think that Sam Darnold, just like you saw last year, is just not built for this situation. He's built to beat up teams, kind of like a bully, kind of like when he's got a great coach, he does things, but you can just see in his eyes and in his face when he gets down in the red zone, in the 20, when the game's a little bit on the line, he looks scared. He looks flustered. He fumbles the ball. That would absolutely not shock me. I'm also going to probably play a prop that Sam Darnold throws an interception, but right now, I'm liking the Niners. I see what they did against the Bears, and I'll tell you this: the Bears' defense is not good, but they're not as bad as people think. This is a Niners all day. I think Niners take the number 1 seed. They don't have the Chiefs in their way, and they win this game. I like it plus 100 for 2 stars.
Show me the money!
Next game, the Colts versus the Texans. Houston's minus 10.5, total 38.5. Riley Leonard time. Phillip Rivers was fun, and he did a pretty dang good job for a 45-year-old man. For a grandpa out there, I'm awfully proud of Phillip Rivers. He got his kids done early. That's why he's a grandpa. I'm not even close to that yet. But I got to give the Texans some credit, too. Last week, they took advantage by jumping the Chargers. But what did the Texans do? They let the Chargers back in that game and almost lost the game, minus a few bad calls and a couple screw-ups on the Chargers side. Look, this Colts team has not been good, but I'm sure they're bitter as a motherfucker this week because they should have been the ones in the playoffs in their minds. As a matter of fact, they're looking and being talked about as a number 1 seed for a third to half of the season. How do you start out 8-2 and lose every single game since? I know Daniel Jones went out, but he didn't go out until a little bit later. You lost at home to Houston. You lost at Jacksonville. You lost, of course, at Seattle versus San Francisco is a little bit more, but you should have beat Jacksonville on the comeback at home last week, right? I mean, unfortunately, this team completely blew their chances in making the playoffs, and now you're sitting there at 8-8. It possibly could have been 9-7 here with an outside shot, but the truth is that you're going to be bitter coming into this game, and that's why I like the motivation on their side to mess it up for the Houston Texans a little bit more, because if the Jaguars do lose to the Titans, which the NFL, they screwed up one timing, and now we'll get to the Cardinals versus the Rams. They actually have this game at the same time as the Titans versus the Jaguars. So if Houston loses to Indianapolis and the Jaguars lose or win, the Houston's out. But if the Jaguars lose and Houston wins, Houston jumps them and wins the division. So the Colts do get to play a true spoiler game. Take the Colts plus the 10.5 points. The next game is the Titans versus the Jaguars. Jaguars are minus 12.5, total 47.5. This number is pretty right to me. I think the Titans really benefited down the stretch here by playing some really bad games. I can see them backdooring this situation. I can see the Colts letting loose a little bit and letting off the steam. But this is still a terrible Titans team that is relying on Cam Ward and Cam Ward itself, to make big plays. And if you factor in the whole season, even if you factor in the last 3 weeks, the Jacksonville Jaguars has just been a much better team. Jacksonville's very motivated. Tennessee is motivated to play spoiler just like the Colts are. But I just still think the Colts are much better than the Titans, even with a Riley Leonard compared to a Cam Ward. Cam Ward still green, doing a fantastic job, but this team doesn't have a lot of great receivers either. I'm staying away from this game in passing. Next game is the Browns versus the Bengals. Bengals minus 7.5, total 44.5. I'd like the Bengals a lot, but I'd like them a hell of a lot more at a 7 or a 6.5. So I'm waiting for that. I think there's going to be contrarian money because the Bengals are motivated, but so are the Browns. This is just the finish of their season, right? But I'm going to wait this out a little bit because there's no rush to do at 7.5. If you want to take a 7.5, this is probably a great teaser leg for a 6-point teaser. Not a good teaser leg for a 10-point teaser, but I think the Bengals are one of those teams that are like, well, if we had Joe Burrow during our tougher games, we would be in this situation and we'd also be in the playoffs. So the Bengals are motivated to finish strong. This number is pretty good to me. To be honest with you, I think the number is actually a little bit light. I would make it 9.5. So also don't want to forget about the part that the Browns are in a letdown spot for screwing up the Steelers. The Steelers dogs at home this week. Browns did a good job messing them up. Big letdown spot for the Browns. I lean the Bengals probably will take them later. Packers Vikings. Vikings minus 5.5, total to 36.5. Low total, terrible quarterbacks. Packers are stupid if they play any one of their starters. They won't play Love. I think they'd be stupid to play Willis because they need Willis too. Apparently Love getting concussed. You need them both. You got to bring up Clayton Tune. As soon as you hear Clayton Tune, this number is going to shoot up a little bit, even though Max Brosmer is freaking terrible as well. This is the terrible bowl. I don't know what to say because you're going to get a lot of backups. The Packers have zero way of improving their 7th seed. Yet the Vikings are just a much better team on defense, but it doesn't mean they can score on offense because that offense is pretty bad over there in Minnesota. I lean Minnesota here, but Jesus, man. Throw this game out the window. Chiefs, Raiders plus 5.5, total 36.5. I'm passing on this one. Wouldn't shock me if the Chiefs win by 10. Wouldn't shock me if the Raiders win by 7. Look, this is, I'm sure the Raiders want to end by beating the Chiefs, but this is still Andy Reid against Destroyer of Gum, Pete Carroll. There's a coaching mismatch here. The Chiefs still have a better roster than the Raiders, although their roster is really banged up too. I mean, their offensive line's banged up. I'm going to lean to the Raiders, but I'm going to have to think more about this one and just make sure everybody's playing. The Raiders probably will start Kenny Pickett the whole game, wouldn't they? Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't. Next game, Lions versus Bears. Now the Bears are up to -3, and the total is 49.5. This is the most, I would say, the funnest handicap of the whole week because there's just so much to this game. So much. Bears fans want them to lose because they want the Eagles to win. They don't want to play the Packers. I get it. I understand that. The Packers are their kryptonite, much harder to lose. That's not how coaches think. That's not how teams think. The Bears want to bounce back against the Niners. They want to beat the Lions, Ben Johnson's old team. Dan Campbell wants to prove that he's still better than the coordinator that left. There's motivation on the Lions. And the truth is that this line is wrong based on the whole season of data. The Lions should be pick 'em away or probably a favorite on a neutral against the Bears with the whole season of data. The Lions had a harder schedule. Lions scored more points, bigger point differential. But the problem about this is that the last 5 weeks, the Bears have been the better team than the Lions. I usually use about 30% of the last few weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks in my algorithm, and I use the full season 70%. But this line's still a little bit too big if the big guys are playing for the Lions. Now, the way I look at it, and it's not the way meathead Dan Campbell's going to look at it, is that if you hurt Jahmyr Gibbs, if you hurt St. Brown, torn Achilles, ACL, any ligament tears, a really bad concussion to Goff or somebody, or tears for him, you are not only out this game, which is the rest of your season, you're out next season. Until maybe the playoffs, maybe December at the earliest. But by then, you're probably out of the playoffs anyway for screwing up your good players. The NFL's added games over the years. They added the 17th game, and they added the playoff games because they added a wild card spot and took away a bye week, right? I mean, you're playing more and more games every single year. I think it would be utter malpractice to play Gibbs, to play St. Brown, and to play Jared Goff after the type of injuries that this franchise has went through over the past 2 to 3 years.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell.
But do meatheads like Dan Campbell think about that kind of thing? No, he doesn't. He cares about winning a meaningless game. This line is too big for where it is right now, but I will say that I grabbed the Bears on a very cheap money line before. And we'll see what happens with Dan Campbell and his decisions. But if I'm the owner or a GM of this Lions team, I put a freaking stop to this immediately. Chargers, Broncos minus 11.5, total 36.5. This line is going to keep climbing because Justin Herbert was announced out. If you're going to sit Justin Herbert, you have to sit everybody because you're not going to give Justin Herbert a banged-up offensive line, which is you already lost your 2 best players early in the season. You're not going to give him no defense. You're going to bench a hell of a lot of people, and you're going to let Denver have the number two seed. I kind of like that strategy, and you can also say, careful for what you wish for. You just gave them the top seed. Well, the Denver was already in the playoffs, and if the Patriots lost, they would have got the top seed anyway. So that makes this meaningless anyway. So you're not exactly giving it to them, right? Jacksonville could be in it. You're not giving it to them. You know, Jacksonville could lose. The Patriots could lose. Denver could be in there anyway. What you are doing is looking for their plays, looking for ways to beat them later, and I like that situation. It's not like you're letting them into the playoffs. You're just messing with the seed, so you can run into them anyway. Take Denver minus 11.5. This is cheap. When more guys are announced out, and we'll find out by Friday, you can tweet me and tell me how I'm an idiot or how I was right if the Broncos line goes up to 14 or whatever it is. I'd say at least 13.5 by Friday, Saturday. So take that one for 2 stars. Next game, Dolphins, Patriots. Patriots minus 10.5, total 45.5. Make no doubt about it. The Dolphins are going to be motivated just like they were last week to screw up Tampa. That's what they do. They take people out of Survivor. They took me out of Survivor against the Falcons, but then they absolutely suck on normal weeks. They're very hard to predict. But also, don't get me wrong, Miami's not a good team, and the Patriots are better. The Patriots are an above-average team. Are they the best team? No. They are not the best team because everybody would be trying to play them if they were the best team. But I have this number at 12.5. The number is 10.5. It is in Never Land. There's nothing I can do about it right now. Nothing would surprise me. I will say that once the Patriots find out the Broncos are destroying the shit out of the Chargers, being that these games are on at the same time, that's when you might want to live bet the Miami Dolphins maybe getting a better number. Next game, making sure we didn't miss any before, the Commanders versus the Eagles. The Eagles are minus 7 total, 41.5. Well, the Eagles aren't exactly a team that's been covering by a lot of points. When you saw Marcus Mariota go out, the Eagles easily capitalized on Josh Johnson. Well, Josh Johnson did a lot better last week when he covered against Dallas. He didn't do that good. This number should be 11.8 if it was Mariota. And I honestly don't know what you're going to get, but you also don't know what you're going to get from the Eagles because the Eagles might have nothing to play for, even though they're on the same time as the Bears. They might find the score out for the Bears, and if the Bears are winning by a lot, they might not try. Now, the Eagles are okay with hosting being a 2 seed because they're the Packers' kryptonite, more than the opposite almost for them. So the Eagles are motivated to win. To win by how much is the big question. Right now, I think that Sirianni goes in business as usual and tries to get the 2 seed. So I think this number is a bit short at the minus 7. This is probably a very good teaser leg. They might not even look up at the score. They're locked into the 3 seed, but I'm going to consider this as a teaser leg at minus 7. The Cardinals versus the Rams. Rams minus 7.5, total 45.5. Heard our buddy Will Hill talk about the correlated parlay with the Niners and the Cardinals. Money line. I mean, that'd be a nice big payout. I think he said 7-1. Maybe it's a little less right now. He says that some books aren't allowing it. Let's see if our friends at FanDuel allow it. And no, not allowing it at all. I understand why, because they're extremely correlated. But here's what I don't know. McVay does rest his guys. He doesn't even play them in the preseason. If he's going to be locked into the 6th seed, he's going to be locked into the 6th seed. But there's 2 things about this. One, if the Niners lose and Seattle wins, which I don't think is going to happen, but if that happens, the Rams can get that coveted ass 5 seed where you play the Panthers or the Bucs. That 5 seed is better for the first round than the freaking 2 seed against the Packers. The Packers are going to be healthier. I'm not shitting you. The Rams are going to be much bigger favorites on the road than the Bears are against the Packers. It's going to be a pick 'em. Or the Eagles even. The Eagles hosting the Packers would be Eagles minus 2.5, minus 3. You're going to see the Rams minus 7 against the Carolina Panthers. It's crazy to think about that. But that's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what you're getting. But I also think that the Rams might want to win one for Stafford and get him the MVP. I'm sorry, the look-ahead line is Rams minus 9.5 over the Panthers and minus 7.5 against the Bucs. Absolutely insane. That is, they have the look-ahead line here up at FanDuel. You know, I mean, it blows my mind that that's where it's at, but that's really the price of it. I agree with it. So, I think the Cardinals are so hurt that they still can get blown out. Maybe a live betting situation here where they play Stafford the first half. And then you probably have to come back a little bit on the Cardinals for the second half. But I think there's a chance he could play Stafford. We're just not going to know anything or have any inclination until during that game. And I did lay a bad number on the Rams, and I might get off it. I might stay right the hell on it. We'll see. Next game. Oh, by the way, the Rams are 4.5-point favorites in Chicago if Chicago does get that 3 seed. And the Bears are pick 'em right now against Green Bay Packers. The Jets versus the Bills. Kind of the same situation here. If I'm the Bills, I'm not playing Josh Allen. Now, McDermott's also somewhat of a meathead. You saw him go for 2 at home like an idiot. He flipped the coin when he was the better team against the Eagles and had all the momentum, and he flipped the coin. Horrible decision. But that doesn't make me feel like he's going to or bench Josh Allen because he might play him the whole game. You know, it's a rivalry, I guess. Is anybody playing the Jets a rivalry? That's how bad this Jets team is. But that's why the number's not 14. It's 7.5. I mean, the number should be 15 or 16, to be honest with you. But we don't know what we're going to get out of the Bills because if I'm the Bills, I'm cool with going to the Patriots because I just won there. I'd rather go to the Patriots than the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. I'm more afraid of Trevor Lawrence right now than Drake May. And that team, they're playing well. You know? You at least understand. It's maybe if you're a Patriots fan, you don't want to see the Bills as the 7th seed just because that bugs you, right? Maybe the same thing as me, but of course with the Bears, you don't have any Super Bowls over the last 20 years to back it up.
Fucking bullshit!
So, another weird situation with the Bills and the Jets because you're just not going to know what you're going to get. I don't think the Bills play many people, and why would you? But this is also McDermott, and we just don't know right yet. I will predict that he is not going to say anything until Saturday. Ravens versus the Steelers. Steelers plus 3.5, total 41.5. Lamar's been expected to play. He was just announced to practicing. Is that a good thing? Not if you coach Lamar like you did before. John Harbaugh having him throw the ball. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Lamar wants to too. It's just Lamar is much better when playing, when pounding a team, although I've seen him choke before. It's just with Derrick Henry, you're a lot better if he's getting those yards. Can the Steelers stop Derrick Henry? You know, that's your big question right there. Because I'm not worried about Lamar as he's been playing like absolute dog shit this year. Remember back on December 7th, the Steelers beat Lamar in Baltimore. You know? Crazy ass game. But the Steelers don't have DK Metcalf. Another big problem. You know? He goes and hits somebody. It's so stupid. Got baited into it. This total's 41.5, and I think this might be too high, even at 41.5. Now, the NFL weather this game is still a little bit out as this is Wednesday, but it's calling for snow below freezing temperatures, which really could mean anything. But my problem is if there's snow, Baltimore is a much better rushing team, as we just saw with Derrick Henry ranking 6th in rush EPA. I think the Steelers should be good at rushing, but they're only 25th in rush EPA. They got Warren back there. Gainwell's been a freaking beast. But you also have a winning quarterback with Rodgers. 3.5 is probably not a terrible number. I'm going to sit there and wait this out a little bit. I want to see what the weather is going to be a little bit more. I'll lean Pittsburgh because my numbers say to, but you know, I think that Lamar really has to get fixed here if this team wants to be a good playoff run. But another thing, do you want to play the Ravens when you get in? No, you don't even want to be a 5 seed. You know, if it's the Steelers, you do. You know, but I understand why the Chargers and the Bills would possibly want to lose this game. Two other games that are kind of taken off the board and back and forth is the Cowboys and the Giants and the Saints and the Falcons. Real quick, I have a much better number on the Cowboys versus the Giants. I don't feel comfortable giving it out now at 3.5. But this Cowboys team has been absolutely dog shit when it comes to laying points on the road. Everyone thinks the Cowboys are motivated to finish this season. Do you honestly think the Giants are just going to lay down? The thing about the Giants is that their coach is a lame duck right now. Why the hell would he care about saving Jackson Dart? You know? Why would he care about that when Daboll got fired? Mike Kafka can only look better by beating the Cowboys, in my opinion, with Jackson Dart. Even though he's going to sacrifice Jackson Dart's head. You know, Jackson Dart ran for a lot of touchdowns last week. Why would he not this week? You know, this line's gotten a bit low for me. But from a power rating standpoint, I don't have the Cowboys that much better than the Giants. My number's about 3.5, 4 as it is, right on the number itself. Yeah, I think this number could be a little bit still too fat at 3.5, but we'll give you a lean to the Giants. And finally, the Saints versus the Falcons. The Saints are +3, +3.5 with juice, depending upon what books you look at. The Falcons are a team that are playing motivated, but they're in a massive letdown spot now that they took out the number one possible seed, the Rams, and you know that was a very questionable non-pass interference calls on both those final plays, but it is what it is. I think the short week could affect them, and the Saints are very motivated to win. And I'll tell you this: my season win total Saints under 6.5 is under. A lot of pressure on this game, so I'm going to have to play this from a strategic standpoint, but I also think, you know, from a number standpoint, this Saints team has a lot of heart, and Tyler Shook can win himself an offensive rookie of the year situation if he gets to win this game. Now it's time for our refuse to lose teaser. That's only 7 and 9, but it's the last week of it, and I'm going back to the 10-point teasers because that's been working for us. We're taking the Broncos down to -2 with the Patriots down to -0.5. Two very motivated teams with the Buccaneers, who's also motivated. I think they keep it close with the Panthers at home. I'll take them up to +7.5 for 2 stars. All right. Well, to recap our official plays, we're going Panthers +3, San Francisco money line +100, Colts +10.5, and the Broncos -11.5, my friends. Obviously, we still have a lot of college football to happen, so we are going to talk about that next Monday on our show. I'm just going to break down the championships, and then I'm going to record a show for Wednesday for your NFL wildcard weekend, as I'll be gone in Puerto Vallarta. Next Friday, well, this Friday, I should say, I might actually have a quick college basketball show, as college basketball is going to be massive this weekend. Of course, you have your couple NFL and college football games, but college basketball is rolling right now. Just hit a nice one on Michigan. Man, they just keep covering, don't they? I'm going to hopefully talk a little bit about college basketball for this weekend on Friday. And after I get back from Puerto Vallarta, we're going to start our normal Mondays and Thursday recordings for Tuesday and Friday's show, basically mostly focused on playoffs and college basketball. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have questions for us, feel free to tweet us at The Icebreakers, email us at info@theicebreakers.com. Have a great rest of your weekend, and go get some winners.